Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. This is the opening of the closing ceremony of the Honours Programme of the FHML faculty of the cohort of 2022. I always have to think, because we have two ongoing cohorts. And I'm happy to see so many happy faces, because this is a happy event of a very, I have to say, for the faculty even a very special event, because an honours program is not just a program like all the other educational programs that the faculty runs. This is really an honor to be part of, and the fact that you're all here managed to get to the end in this closing ceremony, that is what we are really celebrating here today. And you all have seen the agenda, so we have a lot to look at and digest and discuss, because we will go over 8 completely different topics that give a nice overview of every different corner in the domain of health, medicine and life sciences research. But what we will also see is that already at the bachelor stage there is an awful lot to achieve and to learn, because that is something that we always clearly combine in the honours program. We learn a lot by doing things in a safe environment, and then at the same time you can see that you can really make a difference. And I'm already proud when I'm saying this, and I know that Juanita, who is here as well, is also. So that brings us to a short introduction. My name is Theo de Kok. I'm the coordinator together with Juanita Vernooy. And Ingrid Mestrom, who you have seen walking around as a secretariat, is of an indispensable support. So the program is as follows. We're already seated. We are working on the welcome. We will have 4 presentations, about 10 minutes and 5 minutes discussion. So I really in advance would like to stimulate you to think if there's anything that you'd like to address or question or discuss with the presenters. You're more than welcome to do so. Then we will have a break of half an hour. I hope we can be outside and have a drink, a coffee and something. And then we wrap up with the remaining presentations. Then we again have a short break. We all stay in this room, because we need to change the setup a little bit, and then we will distribute the certificates, and that implies that the coaches will be asked to come forward, address the group, and then also the coach will distribute the certificates. And then afterwards, of course, we make a group picture. We'll see if we can do it outside on the stairs. That is always the nicest. And then we have some drinks, hoping to end at 5:30. A few words on the honours program. And I get carried away easily, so I every now and then look at my watch. The idea of the honours program, as I said, is really something outside of the ordinary. And it's a challenge, because it's a program that is on top of already a challenging bachelor program that all students do. And the main idea is to step out of your comfort zone and get involved with students also from other domains of research and study within the faculty. So the crocodile refers to outside of the comfort zone, but not necessarily to the other students, because that is supposed to be coming together quite well. And that's also what we have seen. And that gives everybody the opportunity really to add something to a CV that it makes you stand out. And often when I have job applications, you see a lot of similar CVs, but if I see people that have done something really outside on top of the regular program, that really makes a difference, and that always attracts additional attention. So that is definitely worthwhile the effort. While doing so, we also offer the opportunity to take control over your own research project. And the typical thing is that it means that we all have a different agenda. So it's not like in a regular tutorial group, everybody has the same sort of assignment. No, the group decides how the work will be distributed, and everybody works on their own set of skills and competencies. So that's more or less summarized in this slide. You work on competencies, which is in the context of a project, but student-driven in English, which is for some really normal day-to-day work, but not for everybody. Supported by a coach, typically interdisciplinary, and on top of the regular curriculum. I think most of what's on this slide I already explained. So it is project-based, and it's relevant topics that are really commissioned by commissioners in the field, and that is coming not necessarily to an end product of a report or something written, but can also be something that is presented, or a meeting, or a congress, or conference, or something completely different. That will be used and will have its societal impact on potentially many different ways. On top of that, there are courses and electives, and also on the certificates you will find how everybody performed in that context. And the personalized work plan I already mentioned also relates to personalized competency goals. And when we talk about competencies, we mean a combination of knowledge. We are a knowledge institute, so you have to know things, together with skills. So you have to be able to do something with this knowledge. And maybe most importantly, attitude, a professional attitude. You can know a lot, you can be able to do lots of things, but if you don't have the proactive attitude to actually do something with it, or to stand in front of a group, or to present your outcomes, then there is little impact of what you know or what you are able to do. So that is what we define as a competency. It's the combination of these three things. And we have three main categories of competencies, one of which is communication. Now this is a picture that shows the evolution of communication from, well, writing in stone, being in press, mass publication, email, Twitter, or tweets. And it doesn't mean that the highest level of communication is tweeting. I think the opposite is often proved. And sometimes certain agreements are literally carved in stone. There are do's and don'ts that are carved in stone still, and everything in between. So you have to know how to communicate with whom. It can be very different groups, and how you actually best get your communication done, whether it's oral, on a poster, on a paper, on a flyer, or many other different means. Collaboration is the second sort of major group of competencies, and this I don't know if this cartoon is readable, but you have a lot of problems sometimes when you are communicating. Yeah? We are meeting to talk about coal, it says, and then he freezes on the computer. What is coal? It looks like the screen is frozen. Should we wait? Yeah, let's wait. Oh, I was on mute. I agree. God knows on what. Sorry, I missed that. I was late. And then it means that in collaboration, also the element of communication is important, and that you have to do this in a result-oriented way, certainly when you're project-based working, that you have a clear planning and organization, and a leadership that accommodates this collaboration. Collaborating, as many have experienced, and we saw that in our last presentations in January, is very difficult. And then, of course, our research and analytical competencies, because whatever we do, we generate new data. And this data is not knowledge, it is information. And by analyzing the information, you generate new knowledge that is important to interpret in the context of the relevant environment. I didn't have any accurate numbers, I just made up this one. Studies have shown that accurate numbers aren't any more useful than the ones you make up. Now that may sound ridiculous, but in fact it's not, because often we use imputed data, which is more valuable than having no data at all. So how many studies show that? 87. And that's a quite accurate number, I guess. So doing data analysis also includes critically looking into the value and the trustworthiness of your data set. So that gives, and this was nothing new for all students, but maybe for the parents and friends and family members that came along, this was good to know. Now I have, so we've done this, I think, since the very beginning to sort of have an idea on what comes to your mind if you think back about the honours program. So this is for honours students only. And then if you go to this Mentimeter, there will be one question, and the question is, what are the 3 words that come to your mind if you think back of what you experienced, learned, or whatever during the honours program? Now, I learned a trick. Let's see if that works. Okay. It should be, which one is it? And this one. Oh, I think I have to escape anyway. Why doesn't it do that? Okay, I just do it this way. Yeah. Oh, 65 we're already. Yeah. Three words, so how many can we expect? Yeah, yeah, okay. Is there more coming? Yes, 106. If we're 60 people, 3 times 60, so we still have some free space. Free alcohol, oh gosh. I may be responsible for that one. So any people from the Pint of Science, probably. Okay, so this gives so there's also always a number of things that that stand out. Challenging, we've seen that multiple times before. Fun, communication is key, teamwork and time management, and hard work. Yeah, okay, free alcohol. That is sort of giving a nice impression of what you experienced. We will keep this for future years. Okay. Now we go back to the presentation. Okay, so this has never happened before. I'm exactly 30 seconds before the time limit. That is, I want applause for me, because everybody knows that I never manage that. You're never too old to learn. That's good. That's yeah. I like that. Okay, and now it's time for the real work. So this was just to warm up. So we will start with the first group on reproductive literacy. I have the presentation open and ready. So the only thing that is left is the presenter or presenters to come forward and take over from me. off you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces and otherwise friendly ones. We are the pre-health team. Our aim is reproductive literacy for all. This encompasses the stages of preconception, pre-implantation, and prenatal care. My name is Mariam. This is Diora, Patricia, and Naisha. And we are so excited to share with you a small glimpse of what we have achieved in 2 years of hard but fulfilling work.
Thank you, Mari. Going on to our team, here you can see a picture of our wonderful members, but it should be noted from the very beginning that our progress could not have been possible without our mentor, Masoud. We are very proud of what we have come to achieve, and we cannot wait to share with you all of our progress. But before going on into that, I would like to stress the importance of the pre-health community. We were privileged to continue and to advance the work of the previous pre-health honors cohort, and these people have helped us and supported us every step along the way. We were thrilled to continue to add knowledge to this legacy of the honors program, which is pre-health. And we are so happy that we are forming this community with an infinite mindset that anchors us even further to our educational origin, which is Maastricht University. Now, I would like to introduce each member of our team. So here we have Diora, then Shikea, Hannah, Patricia, which is me, Naisha, Willemijn, Eva, and then Mariam. And in order to fulfill the goals that we have set at the beginning of the project, we have divided ourselves into 3 main groups: the video producers, the article writers, and the timeline producers. Now, why have we done that? We are going to explain this in a minute. So, at the very beginning of the project, we have set out to decide why. Why do we want to further improve this topic? We have soon come to realize that reproductive literacy and health is unfortunately underrepresented in our healthcare systems. So how could we possibly have solved that? Well, the patient is at the forefront of our endeavors, and we aim to educate the patient and the public and not the medical professional, as opposed to what healthcare systems and policymakers are trying to do. The time within a consultation is just too short for a patient to understand all of the medical jargon and all of the intricacies of this topic. So in pre-health, we educate and we stimulate the knowledge under reproductive health, and we are trying to make it digestible and accessible to the general public. Of course, with diversity and inclusivity at the very forefront of our project. Now, what have we done? Throughout this time, we have created an insightful learning platform, and we have used different means to achieve this. We have created 2 timelines, one pregnancy timeline and one in vitro fertilization timeline. We have created videos which have been posted on our YouTube channel and are also soon to be posted there. We have written articles about pregnancy complications, fertilization methods, and ultrasounds, and we are very happy that this week we have actually reached the great number of 50 articles on our website. Nevertheless, we have also worked on our social media, the platform via which we disseminate all of this crucial information to the public.
Now for the exciting bit, let's take a little look at our website and timeline. So what you will hopefully soon be able to see is the homepage of our website. Okay, I think I just have to open it here then.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But maybe we could open it. Yeah. Just download. Download.
in Chrome.
Okay, now it works.
Okay, this is exciting. All right. So this is the homepage of our website. This is what you're going to see when you go. At the top, you have different tabs. You can explore what we do. You can browse through, and you can contact us. You can look at our articles, our timeline, our glossary, and our videos. But let's focus on the timeline right now. The inspiration behind the timeline was the fact that patients are often lost during the early stages of the pregnancy on what to expect throughout. So we wanted to create an interface that will provide information that is digestible and comprehensible in the stages of preconception, pre-implantation, and prenatal care. So here you see the important elements that should be taken into account throughout these stages. And if you, for example, have a question on what the 13-week scan entails, you click on the little tab. It gives you a short summary. But let's say you want further information, you can click on the link that's embedded. It'll take you directly to the website, to a full article that has undergone a strict editorial standard that ensures thorough review process and, for example, use of terminology that is both comprehensible and inclusive for everyone. The words highlighted in blue can be found in our glossary. These might be terminology that might be a little bit more challenging. This is our IVF timeline. This is a demo. This has not been published on our website yet, but we're currently working actively on this, and we're so excited to finalize it. And yeah, we're happy to be able to share what we have been working on so far. Oh, yes. Here. Yeah.
Okay. So now I'll be introducing the videos, which was done by me, Shikeya, and Hannah. And what we aimed to do with these videos was to create a video which was easy to understand for the public. So let's say you didn't have time to read the article, or let's say the article was a little bit too difficult for you, then you would refer to the video and be able to watch it. It was a 2 to 3 minute video, and we made sure we used simple vocabulary, and we also used many images, and we also sourced links where they could find more information. So now we'll show you a preview of the video, which was on assisted reproductive technology. I think it should work. This is on our YouTube channel. Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Assisted reproductive technology, or ART for short, refers to any infertility treatment involving the handling of one person's eggs or embryos. Briefly summarized, one person's eggs are surgically removed and combined with sperm in a lab. But to arrive at this stage, steps must be undertaken first. This may sound drastic or confusing, but we will walk you through it all in a few general steps.
Yes, so if you would like to watch the rest of our video, you can find it on our YouTube channel. And the videos were also in line with the timeline as well as the article, so they were all after each other. Now I'll be introducing our challenges, how we overcame these challenges, and what did we learn, because of course our successful outcomes didn't come without hardships. So first, our first 2 challenges were getting started, finalizing our end goals. When we entered pre-health, we had the opportunity to go in any direction we wanted. And this was a blessing, but also it was very difficult to decide where we wanted to go. Did we want to go broad, specific? What was our target audience? And of course, we came up with different questions that we wanted answers to. And how did we overcome this challenge? What we did was we sat together as a group in our bi-weekly meetings, and we talked about our individual goals. What did we want to get from the Honours Programme? What did we want to get from pre-health? We knew the what, we just didn't know the how. And after that, we were able to establish a general goal and also sub-goals, and then our own individual learning goals. Through this, what did we learn? So we learned a lot about each other. We learned a lot about ourselves, as well as learning a lot about our mentor. We realized that we all had knowledge, strengths, and weaknesses in different aspects that we could share with each other. The next challenge we faced was setting internal deadlines. Now, the Honours Programme is an extraordinary program which comes on top of our very, very busy study. And so at the beginning, we really struggled with setting internal deadlines and being able to actually follow them and go through with them. And when we realized this was a problem, we brought it up in our bi-weekly meetings and discussed it, and together as a team tried to overcome this barrier and come up with a solution. And what did we learn by doing this? We learned a wide set of interpersonal skills, which included collaboration, organization, time management, leadership, and critical thinking skills. We were also able to obtain these interpersonal skills from the workshop, the lectures, as well as a conference that we attended regarding reproductive health. Our final challenge was learning new software and writing styles. Now, a lot of us came into pre-health with not much of experience with designing and software programming, and as well as creativity. And so when we realized, okay, these are our goals here, we've established them now, and we realized that we had to use different softwares, we have to be creative, to make the timeline, to make the video. We realized that we had to do more research and come to an understanding on exactly how we were going to do this. How did we overcome this challenge? We all did our own research on what programs we can use and which ones are good, which ones are not as good. And then we discussed them in the meeting. And after we chose the software programs, we decided to go home and learn how to use them and teach each other. And through this, we were able to learn design and creativity skills and software and programming skills. So these were our challenges and what we learned.
So now that we identified our goals and we knew what we wanted to achieve, we had to work towards the how. And throughout the 18 months, we became incredibly close. We became a team, but we also worked as a unit. And we achieved our communication and collaboration by having regular meetings and also checking in with each other. So we checked in on our individual goals, but we also checked in on subgroup goals. We also maintained a good communication throughout the 18 months, and we ensured to maintain an open environment where everyone was free to provide positive feedback, but also receive this feedback. And finally, we made many unforgettable memories through our several bonding activities, and we also bonded with the pre-health community, so the people that came before us, and we were able to work with them and learn from their knowledge and experiences. So before we finish, we would like to end off with saying that now that we knew what we wanted to achieve and why we wanted to achieve it, throughout the 18 months, we worked towards the how. And as we graduate today, we will always hold the pre-health community, but also the mission and aim of pre-health very dear to us. We will continue to strive to contribute to this platform and its infinite mindset. So as we continue to do so, please take a moment to scan the QR codes that we've provided, and you will get to our website, but also to our YouTube channel and our Instagram, where we will post updates on our future projects because we are still actively working on new things. Finally, we would like to thank the Honors Committee for giving us such a wonderful opportunity. We all have developed and grown so much in the last 18 months, and we couldn't have done it without this opportunity. We would also like to thank our mentor, Masoud, for everything, for guiding us through all of this. And finally, we'd like to thank all of you for coming out today and for your support. To our fellow graduates, congrats. You all have worked very hard, and we would like to wish you all a beautiful day ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that nice presentation. I liked how you kept your cool when things weren't going exactly as well. That's attitude. I like that. Is there any, because we're short of time, any short question for this group? From anyone? Yes, Brigitte.
I see that everything is done in English. Have you considered a Dutch version as well?
Go ahead.
It's actually a great question. What I didn't explain on the website, but what you might have seen, is that there's an option to change the language. Currently, we're looking to translate all the articles in Dutch, as well as German, if I'm not mistaken, and Spanish as well. And Turkish.
And to do this, we're also looking for volunteers. So if you would like to join our pre-health family, we would love to welcome you in. So yeah, you know where to find us.
We're also translating the videos. So right now we just have Dutch, but we're going to expand to more languages.
Okay, in view of time, we have to move on. Thanks again. And if there's anyone with nice language skills, please report. Okay, let's move on to the second group, social capital and depression. Please come forward.
There you go.
Hello. Today I'm here to present to you the group work that we have done over the last 1.5 years. We assessed the association between neighborhood-level social capital and depression, as well as neighborhood-level socioeconomic deprivation and depression. We were a group of 5 students from biomedical sciences, medicine, and European public health, and were under the supervision of Maya and Drucker. Together, we came with a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different educational backgrounds, and we came together to work on our project. But before I tell you about that, I will give you a short outline what I will be talking about with you today. So first, I'll give you an outline of our project and our definitions, what exactly I'm talking about. I'll explain to you the steps on how we started with our project and what our final products are, as well as I will present to you our results, our paper, and if we are maybe going on a trip. So first off, we used a study that is called a Turkish project. The Turkish project was conducted in Izmir, Turkey, and it was a mental health survey that was originally done to look at the association between gene environment and psychosis. However, they also looked at other mental health outcomes. That was our luck to get longitudinal prospective data about depression. So they assessed first in between 2007 and 2009, and then they did a follow-up data 6 years later. But before I will talk with you about our results, we have to define what words I'm using here right now. So first off, social capital on the neighborhood level are the values and resources that are given within a community and exchanged to achieve mutual benefit. And socioeconomic deprivation is the proportion of residents that have low income and or are unemployed. Our social capital variable, we divided in 4 different categories. Those were social disorganization, informal social control, social cohesion and trust, and social disorganization. So before we got those data from the Turkish study, we had to write a research proposal so that they would give us that data that they have. They're not just giving that to everybody. So we wrote an introduction and what we wanted to do with this data. We wrote what we would hypothesize and how we would use this data. This was then submitted, and they gave us the data, luckily. So before we could use that data, we had to learn how to handle a lot of data, how to assess a data set. So that's why our supervisor then taught us the program's data. It's a statistical software, and we had a whole workshop, which was long and difficult, but we eventually learned that, and especially 2 of our group members were really good at it, so they kind of were able to do that. Thank you to Carmen and Ola for taking on the statistical part of this. And then we used multi-level logistics regression for our project. But we had to dive really deep into this topic, so that's why we collaborated with the researchers in Turkey. We had interviews with them, we had Zoom meetings, we met them in person here in Maastricht and asked them all our questions. And then it was time to start writing our proposal, to write our paper and to assess the data. So our final product was a lot of p-values and everything, so we had to make use of that. So first, we assessed if low social capital would lead to a higher prevalence of major depressive disorder or to subthreshold depression, as well as if lower social capital would lead to a higher transition from no depression at baseline to a depression at the follow-up time point. That's what we also did with social economic deprivation. And in the whole data set, in the first stage, there were over 4,000 people assessed. In the second stage, still over 2,000 people were follow-up and asked how they did in the last 6 years. So we found multiple associations, and at some point we also did not find any associations, so let's go to that. We found that at baseline, social capital was significantly correlated with social disorganization and cognitive social capital. And for the follow-up data, or for the transition, only informal social control was correlated. For the socioeconomic deprivation, sadly, neither at baseline nor at the follow-up time point there were any significant results. So, that's what I already talked about. So now we wrote our paper and submitted a final draft to our supervisor, but we are still not done with this. It's not finished to be published. So we all agreed that we would be keep working on this together with our supervisor and other researchers. We still have to decide on which journal we want to publish and have to incorporate those standards from the journal. We presented our results in the last few weeks to several people. First off, we did a presentation in the department of our supervisor. They have a late afternoon meeting, that's Lam here, and we presented to her and her group what we did over the last 1.5 years and what we found out. Then we were at the Men's Research Day, which was a conference here in Maastricht, where we pitched our paper and kind of talked about what we achieved. And now our final goal is to go to Turkey and to tell the researchers there what we found out and what we did with their data. So we hope to do that this summer if we can find a week where everybody's available. So that would be our final step, together with publishing the paper. But yeah. That's what we did, and I hope this brought you some clarity with what our project was about. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions from the audience? No questions. I was wondering about the communication with Turkey, because it's their data set. They have put a lot of effort in generating that. So what is it that you then discussed?
So first off, we had some Zoom meetings with Tolga Binbay, and he he first of explained to us what social capital is, how social capital affects a neighborhood or doesn't affect the neighborhood, and what under definitions or under categories are there. And then, because he already wrote a paper, he used this data set to assess psychosis. So we also could ask him any questions for the statistical analysis. And then we have had another researcher. She was also visiting here in Maastricht, and we met up with her. We presented to her our ideas, our hypothesis, and yeah, was our communication.
Okay, and what was then the input? Was there any discussion about using the STATA program or doing different types of regression analysis?
Yeah, we could also in the beginning we had a lot of labeling problems with the data, like the variables were labeled in Turkish or like problems like this, and they helped to clarify that with us. They kind of adapted some categories, and they could answer all our questions.
Yeah, because on your first slide you had also something about definitions, and I can imagine that there's quite some different definitions about the different endpoints, but also the social capital and how that is analyzed.
Yeah, social capital in general is often, everybody has their own definition, kind of. So in each paper you can read a different definition, which makes it kind of difficult to compare it with other results. Yeah.
And how did you handle that? Because this reminds me of my own slide about the data and the actual correctness of the figures, and so that is something that is really key on determining what the outcome is.
Yeah, our luck was that we had those 4 different categories for social capital, and we assessed those categories, and those were easier to define as the whole social capital dimension. And with our 4 categories, it was easier to tackle that problem, but we listed it as a limitation in our paper.
Yeah. In the meantime, any other questions? Otherwise, I go on grilling her, and that's not the intention.
Thank you, very nice presentation. I was wondering, is the Turkish data not published as yet, and why haven't they published the data?
Yeah, so we finished our final draft.
No, not your, the Turkish, the original data set which is out there. Have they not published the data?
No, the data is not published, no. You have to ask them to give the data to you. But several papers using that data set have been published already, but they were all about psychosis. So we wanted to use the depression variables.
And how big was the data set? How many
How
samples?
big?
Yeah.
In the first question, like in the first time point between 2007 and 2009, it was over 4,000 participants, and in the follow-up data, 2,100 were questioned.
And you said you mentioned that the data set was from 2004 to 2000 what?
No, the first questionnaire was between 2007 and 2009, and the next one was 6 years later.
Yeah. So the question is that how relevant is the data at this present condition? Does the relevance of the data change considering the longitude or the latitude of the study when it was done?
I'm sorry, can you?
We can take it offline.
I didn't understand.
In this aula, we do the PhD defenses. I get the impression we're at the PhD defense here. I'd like a big applause for handling these difficult questions. And congratulations to all of the group, of course. Okay, now we move on to the third presentation on the implementation of artificial intelligence innovations. Oh, that's not the right one.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our final presentation about the implementation of AI innovations in the clinic. I'm Esme, this is Sulaf, and we'll show you what we've done in the past 18 months. So this is what we'll discuss today. And first, we'll give you a bit of background to introduce our project as well. So currently, there's a lot of medical data available for physicians that they can use to make clinical decisions. In addition to that, there's many treatments available that they also have to consider. There's also a lot of data in total that we can use and that we can learn a lot from to improve this clinical decision-making process. So what can we do? We can train a computer or an AI model to recognize this data and be able to make predictions about this data. So, for example, we can give a computer thousands and thousands of pictures of kidneys, and we say, okay, this kidney is affected and this kidney is healthy, and then the computer will eventually be able to predict what is going on with other images and thus other kidneys, and thus can help in the decision-making process. This is what the kidney AI tool does, which is the AI tool we're focusing on within our project. So the kidney AI tool can detect kidney cysts and diagnose them, and it can classify them, and thereby can prevent unnecessary surgery. However, the issue is with all those nice AI innovations that could help us with this clinical decision-making process is that they're not being implemented. So we need to bridge the gap between the research and the innovations and the clinic, and that is what the aim of our project is. So our first aim is to determine the challenges, facilitators, strategies for the implementations of these AI tools, and we want to provide the kidney AI team with a strategy that they can use to implement their tool within the clinic.
So you've already met the two of us, but along with the rest of our team, we divided into subgroups and we outlined some objectives that we wanted to achieve within our project. So among those are literature review, which was important for us to conduct some studies to understand the background of this topic scientifically. We also wanted to combine this with qualitative resources, and that meant that we would conduct primary interviews with physicians and experts in the AI development field that could give us insights into the implementation of AI tools. These two aspects combined could also help us create an implementation strategy to present to the kidney AI team, which would help them develop their tool and make sure that it is correctly implemented. On the side, we also wanted to achieve a kidney AI website to help with the promotion and also increase the accessibility to patients and to experts. So to tell you a bit about our products and our end results from our project. So for the literature review, I'll tell you a bit about the process that we underwent. So initially, we had to perform a systemic review process, which means that we would go on databases and we would filter and collect hundreds and hundreds of papers. So that underwent a first exclusion round, and in that we removed duplicates. That was around 200 papers. Then they moved to the second round, and then we would do a brief screening manually, which is looking at the abstract and the titles and judging whether they were focused enough on AI or implementation in the clinics. Second of all, the reports were, they could undergo a second round of exclusion, and through that we would read them and we would assess them based on their inclusion within the implementation of AI in clinics, whether they focused on maybe kidney technology as well, because that was also relevant for our project. And in the end, we had around 9 papers to extract our findings from. What we focused on were the challenges and facilitators for implementation of AI tools. And for the challenges, we found that the 3 most commonly mentioned ones were data access and privacy. And what that meant, for example, was that medical data of patients was heavily regulated. So it was hard to access it for these types of innovations. Furthermore, the adoption and user-friendliness was another barrier because the AI tools could not be very accessible to physicians because physicians were not consulted about it, so they would not know how to use it, or it was not ideal for their workflow. The last challenge was the AI model quality. These types of models are very important because you're talking about medical decisions for patients, so you want to ensure that they are very accurate and can make quality decisions. There were also facilitators that we highlighted, and that meant that we focused on 3 aspects as well that were commonly mentioned in all the papers. That mentioned multidisciplinary collaboration, and what that means to us is the collaboration in the development process between the physicians, the patients, regulatory bodies, and even the hospitals, so they could create a product that fit the stakeholders' viewpoints very well. Another facilitator was the accessibility and the transparency of the model that you're building. So that means that it had to be very well explained to the physicians using it so they could understand what was happening with it. Also, this went hand in hand with the clinician trust and involvement. Once you involve the physicians, they trust the model more and are more willing to use it, and therefore this will improve the implementation process. Our second product that we already mentioned was the qualitative resources. And what we meant with that is the summary of the findings that we could gather from the interviews that we conducted. So we conducted these interviews with physicians and experts in AI development. And some concerns that were brought up multiple times were concerns about the job security of the physicians that would have to deal with these AI tools. They also outlined that patients would rarely accept these kind of tools in their treatment. They also mentioned that the model would have to be very well explained to the physicians so they could use it, and it would have to align very well into their workflow.
Yes. So what we finally made, based on the results from our literature review and the results from our interview, is this implementation strategy. The 3 main phases are the design phase, the integration phase, and the evaluation phase. And below, you can see which factors should be considered within each phase. We added a finalization phase as well, and this phase is to emphasize that routinely maintenance and checking up on the performance of the model should be done as well. So we can't just give it to the hospital and then leave it, like we have to check it every now and then to see if it's still performing, if there's any other things that we should consider. We can also see that the evaluation phase feedbacks into the design and the integration phase, so things about the model and how it's integrated within, for example, the workflow could still be adjusted. We also created the website, and we put the QR code here. We also put it at the end, so no rush if you want to check it out. Yeah, you can see what we put on the website. We're still kind of refining it with input from the precision medicine department as well. And yeah, check it out, I would say. So the future, what are we going to be doing? So far, we've researched the important facilitators and challenges that are relevant for implementation of these clinical AI tools. And in the future, we're hoping to present the implementation strategy to the Department of Precision Medicine and to the Kidney AI team, so they will actually be able to use our implementation strategy. And we're continuing to work on the systematic literature review to be able to hopefully publish it.
Lastly, we want to acknowledge the people who helped this project come true, so our coaches, Anke Wind and Anshu Ankelekar. We also want to thank all the physicians that we interviewed and the patient as well. We also want to thank Johanna Curiel for helping us with the website development and the Precision Medicine department and the Kidney AI team. And lastly, we want to thank the Honours Programme coordinators for their support and efforts throughout the last 18 months. Thank you and congratulations to everyone today. If you have any questions, consult our email or go to our website.
Thank you very much. Questions? Now, if there are no questions, I have the news that all your certificates are printed and laying there. And this is an honors program. It's a challenge to step out of your comfort zone. And we discussed attitudes. I will not distribute the certificates if there's no questions from the audience. Now, that's a challenge. And now, if I don't get a question, yeah. You want your certificate. Okay, you saved a whole lot.
I'm a little short, so you won't see my hand that hard. I had a question about the challenges or limitations you might face with AI, because one of the biggest discussions is the bias, especially by coders, that is implemented in the data set. How will you and can you account for that when you have a diverse patient population in the future that you will use this data on?
Yeah. So when you're talking about introducing bias into the data set, you're talking about training the model. This is something that we're not directly linked with, but it's, of course, something that we want to relate to the Kidney AI team because it's very important to improve patient diversity, especially in the Netherlands, where medical tools don't necessarily account for that. So it's something that we, for sure, will try to relate to the Kidney AI team to make sure that they have that in their development process.
Further questions? Yes. Yeah. That helped.
Thank you for your presentation. So you mentioned during your qualitative research that many clinicians mentioned that job security was an issue when they looked at implementing this AI tool in their clinic. What is your opinion on this?
So thank you for your question. We really see the tool as an aid, so it's not going to make the decisions. It's just an extra opinion to help them. So we think their job is still secured. They won't have any struggles with that because it's just another tool, another opinion that helps within the decision-making process. So we don't think they should worry about their jobs.
But it was listed as a concern.
Yes,
actually, that was my question.
Yeah, it is one of their concerns. That is true. Like it is the physicians. It is a concern that AI will take over their jobs, but our AI tool is just an aid, and it's not taking over the decision-making process. They will still have the decision in hands. Does that make sense?
That needs to be made clear.
If I can also add to that answer, when you're talking about the job security, we also found a very kind of interesting discrepancy within the the physician interviews, because the radiologists had a different opinion than the urologists within, because the tool, the Kidney AI tool, would be implemented in the radiology section. So they had more conflicting opinions about job security than the urologists who were not in contact with it. So it's interesting to also see how the Kidney AI tool would be implemented in which department and how that would affect their opinions.
More questions? I thought I saw one in the back there for Nita, and here.
Is there some case in which, or how good does the AI model compare to human decision making in terms of if there is a problem, and are there cases where the AI model is not good?
Can you repeat that question?
How good does the AI model perform in predicting in comparison to the doctors themselves? And are there cases where the AI model is just very bad at predicting? Are there like certain groups of people or certain, I don't know, illnesses or something?
So the Kidney AI tool is still being developed, but from the data that we have right now, or the Kidney AI team has right now, it is looking to be quite accurate. We still cannot compare it to physician decisions because that's also an entire new research process, but it's definitely something interesting to look at and will be important for the implementation process.
But we don't have a set number for that yet, or a percentage we could give you now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I have a question, and it's related to, prediction models and these tools are very, very useful, but from others and patients that you might be using it on might be skeptical to the use of them. Do you know how receptive it will be within the clinic from the patient's perspective?
So I actually really like that question because that is something we really wanted to look into, and we've really tried to recruit patients, but we've had a really hard time finding patients to ask them these questions. So this is really something to still be researched and to still be looked into, how, like, what the patient's attitude is towards the use of AI within the clinic.
Any pressing questions? If not, then thank you a lot. Well done.
And we can move on to the next presentation, the last one before the break, on Huntington's disease.
Hi everyone, I'm Hande.
And I'm Arne.
We were part of the group that worked on the Huntington's disease project.
Yeah. And as you can see on the picture behind us, it's a good visual representation of the long and winding road that we've been on for the past 1.5 years with our project.
As well as all the struggles that people with the disease face. So throughout the presentation, we're going to go over the different subparts of our project, what we did, when we did it, how we did it. You can look at the corner of the screen to see the symbol that different Huntington's disease associations use around the world. It's a flower which represents strength and hope, a theme which we also try to incorporate into our group name, which you saw at the cover, Hunt and Hope. So to start off with, what is Huntington's disease? You may or may not have heard of it because it is a rare disease. It is neurodegenerative, which means that brain cells gradually and progressively die over time. And it is autosomal dominant, which means that if a parent has a disease, there's a 50% chance that the child will inherit it as well. Sadly, there's currently no curative treatment, but medication can be given to help with symptoms, which include movement disturbances, neurological deficits, and psychiatric complaints. This all, as you can imagine, has a big impact on patients' lives and quality of lives. However, as with any medical disease, there's also a ripple effect, and people around the patient are also affected. And that brings us to the question we were given with this project: what are the experiences and needs of children of patients with Huntington's disease? So this was given to us by our commissioner, which is the Huntington Expertise Centrum at MUMC, the hospital here.
And then we can give you a brief overview of the timeline within our project. So we started off in October 2022, and after our first team building activity, we immediately went to business, and we started looking into what possible research outcomes that we wanted to look into. And we started immediately with working on our ethics application, as we've heard that this could take some time. Then in March of 2023, we went to the HDYO conference in Glasgow, which was really insightful for us. We were able to do a lot of networking with multiple organizations, but we were also able to see the needs of people with Huntington's disease, from people with patients of Huntington's disease in their family in real life there. And then in June, we heard the news that our ethics application was approved, so we were able to set up our research. And then after 2 months of holiday, we started again in September, bringing out our online questionnaire. And afterwards, we almost immediately started planning on coming up with our very own mini symposium that we organized in February. And that was also the point in time that we were able to create our focus group for our research. And currently we're still working on the data analysis, and this is the official honors end, but we would like to continue working on the analysis and hopefully in the near future be able to publish a paper.
So as Arne mentioned, in March of last year, we planned to attend a conference in Glasgow, which was organized by HDYO. That is an HD youth organization which provides support and information, particularly for young people in the community. We were very grateful for the opportunity we had to network and talk to people there and hear firsthand accounts of how the disease had affected them. The aim of the conference was to bring together patients, families, clinicians, and researchers. And as soon as we stepped into the building, we could really feel and see how tight-knit and resilient the HD community was. This not only gave us ideas for our research, but also motivated us to be more creative with our project and come up with different outcomes for how we could contribute to the community. And this is something we're going to go into later on in the presentation. And besides the advancement of our project, this was also an important event for our group dynamics, and it really made us feel more as a team after we came back from there. To go further into our research now, We first started off, as the other groups also talked about, with looking into the literature, reading about what's already known, what has already been done, and looking at whether there were any gaps that we could fill in. After a few weeks of focused reading, we gave a presentation to Dr. Maaike Osterloo. She's the neurologist at the head of the Huntington Expertise Centrum. And together with her team, we decided to focus on the pre-testing period, hence the name given to the study PrEP-HD, pre-testing period of HD. So currently the minimum testing age for genetic testing is 18, but we discovered that there was a difficult but overlooked period when children or young adults found out about their familial HD risk and when they could actually get tested for HD. And we wanted to know what their experience during this period was and whether they required any support from healthcare. Once we got the approval that Arne mentioned, we started recruiting participants by advertising in different nursing homes and hospitals and genetic centers. We started then with our focus groups. These are small group discussions where participants have the opportunity to talk about their experiences during this period. And these were moderated by Maud Damon, and she's a PhD who's working on a similar research question to us. We have had 2 research groups so far on the 1st of March and 25th of March, but we're hoping to get more participants so that we can host more. The next steps for our project include transcribing the discussions from these focus groups, and these will be done by listening to the recordings that were taken, and then seeing if there were any common themes that came up during the discussions. The data analysis will be done by a member of our team who's doing her internship as well, and then, as Arne mentioned, we hope to continue beyond the honors program to present all this to the scientific community.
And then after Glasgow, that was a very important point for us that we decided that we did not only want to focus on doing research, but also want to give back to the community. And we wanted to look into the psycho-education material. So we had multiple meetings with Land van Horne Expertise Centrum, which is a nursing home who helps patients and supports patients within every stage of the disease. And after those meetings, we decided that we wanted to create education material for children, for example, on how to talk to others, but also on how to deal with parents who have Huntington's disease. We first of all wanted to create leaflets and workbooks, potentially even a website, but we came to the conclusion after some extra meetings that this was not doable for us, as we did not have enough expertise within that field to create this, but we still wanted to mention this, as we really wanted to point this out, that this is really important within Huntington's disease. Then we also wanted to do fundraising. At the Glasgow conference, we met Paramjeet Oberoi, and she is the founder of Sheenam's Wish. She has a husband who unfortunately passed away due to Huntington's disease, and she has a daughter who has the juvenile onset of the disease, which basically means that she has received the symptoms at a very young age, and it's the worst form of the disease that there is. And we had a fortunate combination of events because we wanted to raise funds for Sheenam's Wish, and I planned on running a half marathon in Antwerp, so why not combine the two? And we can say that this was quite a success, as we have raised over 600 euros with the run for Sheenam's Wish. But we didn't want to stop there because we wanted to do more. That's why we started organizing for our mini symposium, as I mentioned in the beginning. We started off with that in November 2023, and we came to the conclusion that this was quite a task to do because we had to look into a lot of things, booking a room, looking for speakers. So eventually we were able to host this symposium at the university in February, and we had multiple speakers covering varying topics to educate the attendees. And we were very glad that in this way we were able to create a lot of insight, but also awareness on the disease. And we also raised another 155 euros for Sheenam's Wish. And something else that we want to mention is that we also sold a book there, Huntington's Disease Heroes. And that is a book created by people who are affected by the disease, and they share their stories within the book. and we have met some of the authors in Glasgow at the conference, so it was really nice for us to actually, after almost a year that we met them in the first place, that now was the time that we were able to do something back for him. And then we have come to the end of our presentation. First of all, I would like to specifically thank Dr. Stephanie Linden and also Professor David Linden for the amazing support that we have had received from them during the project. So please, a round of applause for them. And then, as I said, this is the end of our presentation, but for us, not the end of our project. So we will keep on working, and maybe, hopefully, you will see a paper pop up from us. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Questions for the Huntington's group? Yeah, right in front here.
You mentioned that patients don't have the option to get tested until they're 18. Did you find any information on whether they actually want to get tested at 18 or whether they prefer to not have this genetic test?
That's an interesting question because when we were looking into the literature, that was actually what a lot of the papers focused on. So generally, whether people wanted to get tested and wanted to know about the disease or whether they did not want to know about it, because the concept was that if you do know about it, you can't not know, but if you don't know, then there's still a possibility of it being positive or negative. When we went to the conference, we found a mixed approach from young people there. Some of them were actually they really wanted to know earlier than 18 because it was just a lot of uncertainty for them and they wanted to plan for their future, and some of them just did not want to know. But yeah, it is a big area that is already being researched.
Sorry, just a quick follow-up. Is there any advantage medically wise to knowing beforehand? Is there any way to kind of prepare or dampen the symptoms?
Unfortunately not. There isn't any medication that changes the course of the disease or is curative at the moment. So they would receive more support in terms of medication that could help with their movement or possible psychiatric complaints, but not in the way of prolonging life or preventing progression, no.
And I have a question regarding the methodology for the study, because you mentioned that for the focus group, you're gathering basically a qualitative data, right? How are you planning to analyze that? Because we tried this in our group, and I'm just curious to see how you're going to do so, because it's a bit challenging as well.
Yeah, definitely. So we actually have a member of the group who's doing her biomed internship in this field, and she's going to be the head of the analysis. I do know that they're using Atlas T in terms of the computer program, but further than that, we don't have any details about how she's going to be doing it.
Yeah, one moment.
Okay, hi. Okay, so basically, what we're gonna do is transcribe the focus groups, so exactly word for word, look at what these people are saying, and then this is going to be biased. That's why both groups are going to be done by 2 people, is where you're going to look at the big topics that are going to be discussed. At first, you actually look at smaller groups. So, okay, this person is talking about this, then this person is talking about that. And then after you've gathered a bunch of small topics, you're going to bunch them together into main topics. And then those main topics are what you're going to discuss in, hopefully, your paper if you do that. And then hopefully you will see that there's a main theme among both groups, although I can already tell in our groups they were very different, so that's not going to be the case. But it is very opinionated, so it's very biased to the person that's actually going to do the analysis. So that's something you will always have with qualitative research, of course. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Maybe I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
What was your biggest challenge as a group?
I think in the beginning it was a little difficult for us to know what to do with everyone's character and personality. And I think after the Glasgow trip, we of course attended the conference, but afterwards we had dinner together, we did fun things together, and from that moment in time, I think our group bonded way better than we did in the beginning, and I think we all noticed that afterwards when we got back from the conference that the group dynamic was unrecognizable if you compare it with how it was before. So I think that was our biggest challenge and how we overcome it as well.
Okay, thank you. One round of applause. Well done. So it's now time to have a break. The break is just if we leave out here to the left and then to the right. Hopefully we can have some coffee outside. See you back in half an hour.
Okay. I hope everybody enjoyed the break. We have nice sunny weather outside. I always keep talking nonsense until I have full attention. Yes. Okay, let's move on. The next presentation is already on. It's on vitality of the intensive care unit staff, and I would like to invite the presenters to the front, and there they are. Okay, the floor is yours. Welcome them with an applause.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Our group's name is We See You, and as he said, our topic is vitality of ICU staff. Specifically, we wanted to investigate the research question, what stress factors can lead to burnout among ICU staff? And the aim of our project was to translate our results into suggestions or solutions that could be implemented in the ICU staff at Maastricht Hospital to improve the staff's well-being. Okay, so in today's presentation, we'll take you step by step over our progress during the program. We started with some familiarization and background into what the day-to-day of the ICU is like. Then we went into an exploration phase where we heard from the ICU staff themselves. After that, we had to find a tool to decide how we were going to collect our data, and we could finally spread our survey and finally analyze the results that we could translate into a final objective.
Okay, so our first step was actually to understand how's it like to work at the ICU. And the ICU is a place where tough medical decisions, but also human fragility collide, and it creates its unique set of challenges. Unlike other regular hospital wards, the ICU is a place where you have not only greater emotional distress, but also heavier workload. You have a more complicated, a more challenging patient profile, and you also have very unpredictable shifts. So you can imagine that it creates a very high-pressure environment. And we would like to give a little bit of illustration of how it's like with a 20-second video of a very busy day on the ICU. But first, I would like to quickly just lower the volume, because last time it was slightly loud, and we don't want to overstimulate anyone. So you can imagine, 20 seconds, it will give you enough agony, I think, but it's a bit loud. Okay, I don't know for you, but for me, 20 seconds were more than enough to understand that it's pretty overstimulating. It's very disturbing and actually very challenging. Can you imagine this is your day-to-day life? And that's when we decided that was our first step to actually come up with what we call the empathy model, where we took into account the different dimensions of one's life, one ICU staff, and these were variables that could influence the stress levels. And here we're looking at not only at a personal level with, for example, the higher workloads or the fatigue, like physical fatigue, but also the continuous beeping and monitor sounds that can create the environment, can create a more tiring environment, but also administrative factors that can also influence their well-being. And this was basically gathered through literature search. So that was our first step. We went to literature, we read about it, and we created this model. And this was used for our second step, that we decided to explore this further. And we did that by conducting a bit more than 10 different interviews with different ICU staff members with different roles, so nurses, physios, technicians, doctors. And what we gathered is we asked them about how's the team dynamics, what type of support do you get from the ICU, how's the workload for you, what do you perceive as stressful, do you have a good communication within your department, things like that. And based on the information we gathered, we discussed as a team, okay, what's our next step? Like, how can we explore this further?
Okay, our next step was then finding a tool, and we had to choose between a focus group or a questionnaire. So one advantage of focus groups, as was already discussed, is that you can ask a lot of in-depth questions and get really motivated answers, which you can't really do with a questionnaire. However, it also requires expertise to guide the discussion and to get meaningful results, and we didn't have this expertise. It can only reach a smaller study population, and also the validation of results is much more difficult than the quantitative analysis from a questionnaire. So we decided to go for the perceived stress scale. It's 10 questions that the participants rank from 0 to 4. And then to this questionnaire, we added some questions ourselves about experience, gender, and some of the more personal information for participants. And finally, 2 final open-ended questions where participants could develop their answers a bit more. We then could carry out our survey, but first we had to ask for ethical approval. This was not an easy process. We needed to come up with a whole research proposal and for it to be approved by the ethical committee. After some months, we managed to get a decision that was that our study did not fall under VMO research, so we could give it to our participants. We also had held meetings with hospital staff and with our coaches, who really helped us understand what questions could be beneficial to add to our survey in order to get a real understanding of what was going on in the ICU. And yeah, to send out our survey, what we did is we created posters which we could hang in the different departments of the ICU. And in order to get our response rate up, we also handed out chocolates. So we placed the posters next to chocolates. And actually, this really helped. We got up to 72 complete responses that we could use for our data analysis.
Okay, so now let's move on to what we gathered with that data. So we will have some short descriptives. So of the 72 respondents, 58 were females, 40% males. And if you look at the pie chart, you see that you can see a description of the years of experience of the staff members. And here what you see is that more than 60% of the staff, they work for more than 10 years. So this is already like a good experience. And only 23% falls under the what we call the less experienced, so 0 to 5 years. Now, when looking at the shift time, we see that 43% of the ICU staff respondents, they mainly have day shifts, and 55% they have an equal distribution of day and night shifts, and only 1.3% are only night shifts. And if you look at the other pie chart on the right, you see that the average working hour ranges from 36 to 40 hours a week. And only a smaller percentage, namely 12.5%, work more than 40 hours a week. And at 25%, they work 20 to 30 hours at the ICU. This is relevant because then we did some analysis to see if these variables were affecting the final perceived score scale. And when we calculated the perceived stress score using the validated questionnaire that Esther just explained, we saw that the vast majority, so 52.8% of the ICU respondents, they fall under the low stress category. 45.80% falls under the moderate stress category, and only 1.4% of the staff falls under the high stress category. And then when we did some further statistical analysis.
Yeah, so first we compared gender, and we found that in our study, females had almost 1 point higher in the perceived stress score, but this was not statistically significant.
We also did a similar analysis on the shift work. So we saw that people that combined day and night shifts have higher overall scores in terms of stress than just day shifts. But again, this effect was not significant if you want to translate this to a whole population. And then we wanted to correlate whether the hours or the workload was related to more or less stress. We found that 1 more hour of work per week was resulting in 0 point less score in stress, which really surprised us because we initially thought that we would find higher stress scores for higher workloads. And then we also found that years of experience decreased the stress scores, but not in a significant level. In fact, our most significant variable was workload, but as I said, in the opposite way that we initially hypothesized.
Yeah, and in our survey, we also included some open questions, and that's the part of the study that we're going to use to write a report to the ICU. And this is still the ongoing part of our project. So we're currently finalizing a written report where we suggest what can be done, what are feasible, and financially speaking, what is doable with this information, what can be done in the ICU to improve the vitality of the staff. And when we look at the question, what do you find stressful about your work? The top 3 reasons were management, teamwork, and high workload. And management, it's mainly the administration. So basically the scheduling and being placed in different teams all the time and things like that. But also the group dynamics, it's a big thing because you never work with the same people in the ICU here. So all these things take into account. We also asked them what are solutions that you would consider to implement to make your work environment less stressful. And we gathered actually 72 responses of like different solutions, and we try to group them in different categories. But these are the most frequently answered one. And based on these answers, we're writing a report and doing that with their suggestions plus what's already available in literature. We will provide potential interventions to improve the well-being of these highly pressured people. And we hope that it can change and positively impact their lives. And I think that's the ultimate goal of our project.
Yeah, so to summarize, our key learnings during the project was, first of all, understand your audience before you carry out your research. This was really important to specialize our questions to them. We also had to keep realistic goals in order to keep motivation high. And we really found useful asking for advice to the right people. They were most often really happy to help us. And in terms of results, our key findings were that higher workload does not necessarily mean more stress, which really highlights the importance of other factors in causing stress to the ICU staff. And in our study, also, an unstable schedule increases perceived stress, which is supported also by the answers of the ICU questionnaire to the open questions, which really complain about not having a stable environment, a stable team, and a stable schedule. And finally, how the right peer support can really reduce stress among ICU staff. Yeah, so this is our team. Special thanks to the people you can see underneath, our coaches, and to the entire ICU staff for helping us carry out this research.
Question on my side. Was the chocolate included in the protocol for the ethical evaluation?
No, it was not, but
since,
it's...
It should have been.
Yeah, I think we would have gotten it sooner if we included the chocolate part.
Okay, questions, Masu.
Thank you for the nice presentation. It's actually very interesting that you showed that peer support is has the biggest contribution to reducing stress. Mm-hmm. So what is your solution? What do you think you can increase that?
What we saw in the written answers is that there's a lot of, there's a gap between generations that work in the ICU, so the younger, the older. So I think the big thing is communication. So one of the things that we were reading in literature is like having team workshops and how you can enhance team communication and improve the team dynamics by having a clearer communication. What we also saw in the answers, like the open answers, is that sometimes they feel overly criticized, but they don't receive constructive feedback. They don't know how to improve. So I think it's just making sure that whoever is in a superior role can give proper feedback, and the people that are just starting, for example, they can learn how to ask for feedback to improve. Because overall, that's how team works. You need to have a better communication. And communication was a big thing. And also being placed in different ICUs at different days also made it harder because people they were less comfortable to ask for help, for example, because they just didn't know who was in charge, or the dynamic was a bit challenging, let's say.
Is my interpretation correct that belonging to a team is probably the biggest effect than having extraordinary expectations from management team or organization, right?
Yeah.
I think I think this is like a general pattern that you can see in other.
Yeah, this was also a very frequent answer to the cause of stress. Yeah.
Another short question? Okay. Short question, long walk.
Hi, I had another question because I was thinking, as part of a team, you have different sections within the hospital. So you have scrub techs, nurses, and doctors. And I can imagine the stress for a nurse or a scrub tech is different than that of a physician. Have you also accounted for inter-role stress? Because they face different challenges that are not very equitable to one another.
Yeah, we wanted to do that, but it was not part of the survey because it was not part of the standardized scoring things. We did include it, but that was something we also wanted to analyze at first, the different stress for roles, but we didn't do that. No, it was not part of the Pearson survey.
We also did find in the open questions that nurses especially had some complaints about being listened to, and that was something that we could see even if we didn't include it ourselves in the questionnaire.
But it was not statistically analyzed for the responses, no.
Oh, go ahead.
I have another question for you. One of the main factors seemed teamwork, which surprises me, but probably that's also part of how you interpret that. Could you elaborate on what is perceived as teamwork? Does it refer to the same peer improvement thing that you mentioned?
I would, because that's how we group them, but it involved the team communication, the team dynamics, how you receive orders, how do you perform tasks as a team. It seems to be very, you have a lot of different roles in the ICU, but they're not interconnected, so it can create this condition where you have many people doing various things, but they don't really have a cohesive a cohesive team. That's the main thing, because you have a bunch of people working at different places at different times. So in the end, you don't have the concept of a team, just a lot of people working together.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for your presentation. And we move on to the next group on muscular dystrophy. You always do that. That's good.
That's that teamwork.
Full support of your team.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm grateful to be able to be here today to represent the team Hustle for the Muscle. I see that it has been covered by the Forsara logo, but that has been our team name from the beginning, from the very first day that we actually got to meet each other. I'd like to introduce our team. My name is Alexia, this is Lily, and we got to work with 10 brilliant women, Emma, Laura, Nastia, Olga, Isabel, Julia, Doris, and Josephine. So we worked on the disease laminin alpha-2 congenital muscular dystrophy, which is often commonly referred to as LAMA2. It is a rare congenital neuromuscular disease which affects 1 to 4 out of every 10,000 or 100,000 people. This disease is not very well known, and there is no cure for it. There is also very little treatment for it, and you can only really treat the symptoms, which means that children who are born and suffer from it often do not live to past their teenage years. So when we started on this project, we decided to do as much as we could for the disease and really build on it in frames of knowledge, treatment, and clinical care. And so we divided into three different groups: the conference group, the lab group, and the clinical group. Now, our conference group started from the very first week on planning and organizing a conference that took place in Barcelona last year in March. And we were grateful that we were all able to attend this conference. You can see our group photo at the top. The conference actually had an international group of researchers, clinicians, and patient representatives all present and willing to share information, experiences, with the real goal to build on what is known about LAMA2 and hopefully to achieve treatment and cure as soon as possible. If you look at the picture in the circle, we had about 100 people there, and we actually also had people watching from online from all over the world. Our conference was published on the Maastricht University website, and we also were able to create our own website for this. One of our largest achievements during this was that a few people from our group actually wrote a workshop report that was published in Neuromuscular Disorders, the journal. We applied for and received a grant of over 2,000 euros for this conference. And following the conference, one of the biggest growth points that we achieved is that we now have bi-monthly or every other month, we have online meetings in which researchers from all over the world continue to exchange information, continue to exchange resources, and in this way we build toward international collaboration to hopefully achieve treatment sooner. Another one of our groups was the clinical group. This group did qualitative research, conducting interviews for patient care and patient testing. We identified representatives of the patients willing to participate. We drafted 2 official documents, a questionnaire for research and a patient guide, which is still currently being finalized, with the main goal to improve patient care.
One of the most valuable things that we learned, our whole group learned during this whole experience, is what it takes to actually have your own research project, from generating your own hypothesis to creating protocols, to presenting those protocols in research meetings, then troubleshooting, doing all your calculations, and essentially accepting the fact that everything that can go wrong probably will. So this was a very large learning opportunity for all of us. But in order to understand the scope of our project, I want to give you a quick overview of what the undermolecular mechanism of the disease looks like. It is a mutation in the LAMA2 gene, which leads to a complete lack or a reduction in the amount of this cross-looking protein that you can see in the healthy muscle. And this protein is very important in structural stability of the muscle. And due to this mutation, the patients with LAMA2 CMD do not have this structural stability. A large part of LAMA2 research is in modifying these stem cells called mesangioblasts, or MAPs, so that they can either express an alternative gene, LAMA1, or to express linkers that can bring links of the diseased or modified protein to actually have the structural stability. There are a lot of different things that are being done, and if you want to learn more, you can read our paper. But what we were focusing on was also modifying these mesangioblasts, but in a way that they can move easier through the blood vessels, through the endothelial layer of the blood vessels, and so that they can go easier to the muscle. And for now, what we have done is we have finalized a protocol that works for a model outside of the body, so in vitro model, that can mimic the vessel conditions, and afterwards, after we are working on the final exposure of the MAPs, we will put them in this model, and we will see if this pre-exposure has worked in improving this homing of the stem cells. So we have a lot of things that are currently in progress. We have a lot of things that are happening in parallel. So from the conference group, as Lexi said, we have the meetings that are happening monthly, and the researchers are getting together and they're sharing a lot of ideas. Additionally, we are working on a database for where the researchers can share with each other what regions they need, mouse models, etc. Currently, it's still in development, but it's really important, and it's a huge project, and it's a huge help to the Llama 2 community. And related to it, we are also in the end stages of drafting a consortium agreement between the researchers so that this exchange of resources and knowledge can be done fairly. Yeah, as I mentioned in the lab, we will continue with the exposure of the maps, and we will be conducting our final experiments hopefully by the end of this academic year. And from the clinical group, we have, as Lexi said, the clinical guidelines for patients and for parents of patients with Llama 2. And as you can see, we had a lot of fun during this whole process. You can see a lot of pictures from our Barcelona trip, from bonding activities, the restaurants and everything, and we created a lot of lasting memories. What we have learned is that these bonding activities are not just an excuse to go and eat at the expense of the honors program money, but are also really important in creating this team, and we managed to solve a lot of our interpersonal communication issues by just spending time together and having fun together. We've learned a lot about planning, that we have to create agendas, keep everyone in the loop, create learning goals that we can tackle together, and have feedback sessions in which we can exchange what we're doing wrong or right. Yes, we had a video that we showed last time about the different. It was a video that was shown in the conference from different patients and parents of patients, thanking us for all this work that we've done. Oh, you can play it, I think. Or?
No, we're past time.
We're past time. Okay.
You can show it.
We can show it. Okay. Some of you have seen it already, but the ones that haven't.
Nous sommes heureux d'y prendre également part. Because there is no treatment yet, and there is still a need for good scientific research, we try to support the science with foundations and patient organizations.
Llama 2 groeit. Het aantal betrokken artsen en wetenschappers groeit en het aantal patiënten dat mee wil knopen.
La communauté Llama 2 devient comme une famille.
Gemeinsam sind wir stärker.
Ensemble, on est plus fort.
Insieme siamo più forti. Grazie.
Thank you. Dankeschön. Merci beaucoup. Dziękuję.
So thank you for listening.
We wouldn't have wanted to miss that, did we? Questions?
They don't have any questions. They're just that good. I can't imagine we were just that good.
Shall I start off?
You start off.
What makes you a group?
Would you like to start?
I think we were a very large group, so that was an initial challenge that we had at the beginning, and it was something our coach brought up with us from the very start. And I think that's why from the very beginning we found it really important that we got to know each other very well, because as we discussed, we went to Barcelona, which was it was a lot to organize. We were behind the scenes organizing everything. So with such a large amount of work, you really have to work well as a team together. So that's what Lily was saying earlier with going out to restaurants, going out with bonding activities together. We really need it as a group, because if you don't have that connection and foundation with each other, it's really hard to work together. So I think that was a huge part that we all had to play in the beginning. And then I think later on with Barcelona, that really brought us together. I think as well with the group who went to Glasgow, we had a very similar experience. I think we have a lot of memories, even videos that were that were really fun, such as you can see Lily here. This was in our hotel where she was so small that she could fit into our lockers. So we really went through a lot of emotions together. We really went through a lot of experiences. And I think after that, we really worked well together. We really gelled well together. And as Lily said, we had a lot of feedback with our group. And that was something that was really important, especially because we were so large. And with that, we continuously having those feedback sessions, and with our coach as well. He was really involved with our group. We were able to work well together and gel well together. I think both girls would agree with that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Other questions? So about the distribution of tasks, because there were a lot of things going on. How did you do that? Because lab work was, of course, quite different from the other tasks.
So it took us a while to actually set up agendas during meetings. However, once we got that set up, it really created clarity within our discussions, and it really helped us understand who was doing what and where there was space to divide tasks because somebody was under more pressure than someone else. So to create a division of tasks that really worked well and continued to move our group progress along, that communication was absolutely key.
Yeah, I can say as for the group itself, I usually made the agendas, so I led the meetings. And it really was crucial. For example, we had Lexi, who was in charge of doing the tasks for everyone. So that was always kept up in an Excel doc. And for each meeting, we would put up what the previous tasks were, what was in progress, and then what we still needed to address. So that made our meetings very efficient as well, because we had exactly what we needed to talk about. And we could go straight through that list and then also adjust what our deadlines were, what we still needed to do, and what we were missing. And I think that made our group work very well together in the end.
Other questions? No? Then thank you very much once again. And then we move on to the next one, transboundary environmental health issues. Yes, should be somewhere here. This one. Can you start it yourself? Yeah. Because I don't know. Is it right at the beginning? Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Denise, and I'm here with Aria. We are very excited to share with you everything that we've done this past year and a half and how we've concluded our honors project about the environmental health impact assessment. This is the wonderful team that we've been working with for the past 18 months. As this was the honors program of the Faculty of Health, Medicine, and Life Sciences, we got the opportunity to work with students from different studies within this faculty. This is our wonderful coach, Maria Janssen, and she has guided us throughout this whole project. She is a public health researcher at the University of Maastricht with over 35 years of experience in population health.
So, if you aren't already falling asleep after all these presentations, you'll have noticed that the title of ours is the Environmental Health Impact Assessment. What is this exactly? As you may know, Maastricht is uniquely positioned at the borders of multiple countries. And in this region specifically, there is an accumulation of a lot of different pollutants, namely the A2 highway, the Meuse River, the Maastricht-Aachen airport, but also several industries. CBR Lixe, a cement factory just across the border in Belgium, being one notable one. Those residents living near the sources of pollution often experience their effects more pronouncedly. Recently, CBR Lixe has asked the Belgian government for permission to expand their excavation sites, and an environmental health impact assessment is required to license these permits. And at the start of our project, this license was being worked on, and it was due to be completed in mid-2023. The foundations Milieufront IJsde and Goed Leven in de Jegervallei are two local citizens coalitions that are deeply concerned about the effects the cement industry is causing in their regions. They are here to address the questions that need to be answered to properly assess if these permits can be granted to the cement industry for expanding their excavation sites. What is tricky in these border areas is that there is a hazy distribution between residents who are strongly in favor and strongly against the expansion of the factory. Furthermore, because of the border region scenario, there is a very diverse range of perspectives on the issue. This all makes reaching a consensus extremely difficult. In our efforts to understand the complex situation, we started exploring. This included literature reviews and 4-hour-long meetings with experts, Maria, our coach, being one of them. Through this process, we arrived at an important note. The emissions of ultrafine particles during the production of cement raised significant health concerns for the local residents. This is because, due to their tiny, tiny size, these ultrafine particles can penetrate deep into our lung tissues and lead to cardiovascular disease. With this understanding, we set two main goals in our project, one being advancing the scientific literature on the topic, and the other being raising awareness on the issue, as we saw that on both sides of the border, citizens were not very well informed. Concretely, we divided our group into two main subgroups, one focused on awareness and the other on scientific writing. This latter subgroup was divided into two parts, one focused on writing a scientific letter, while the other engaged in qualitative research. But what did these two groups do exactly?
Let's take a closer look at our awareness campaign. Now, of course, we couldn't start raising awareness and spreading information if we ourselves were not fully informed. So at the beginning of our project, we actually biked across the border to this area that was being affected the most with members of the Citizens Coalition Goed Leven in de Jegervallei, so we could see firsthand what was causing all of this pollution. The picture you see here was actually taken during that very trip. It is a picture of the excavation site that is being used by CBR Lixe to get their materials for their cement production, and this is actually the site that they plan on expanding. Now, what you don't see is that behind the camera, a row of houses has this as the view from their kitchen window. Isn't that wonderful? So the first thing we wanted to do was create a Facebook page because we wanted to create an easily accessible platform for citizens on both sides of the border to be able to communicate with each other on this topic. Another thing that stood out to us during our meetings with the stakeholders was that it was mostly older individuals that were interested in this issue. We later learned that the younger generation lacked interest, but also the knowledge. So with this in mind, we approached multiple schools in the area to try and raise awareness amongst the youth. We ended up being able to present at 2 locations on multiple days to around 100 students. And at the High School of Porta Mozana, we packaged our message into the story of sustainable development. And at Vista College, we were able to present in the story of sustainable cement production. At the end of our presentations, we took the opportunity to conduct a survey, and the results of this showed that a lot of these students were actually, like we were told before, unaware that they were living so close to these multiple sources of pollution, and that our presentation helped them get a better understanding of what this accumulation of all these pollutants was doing to their health and how it was affecting their health. Now, to reach an older, more informed demographic, our final awareness-raising campaign was a debate café in collaboration with Studium Generale in late January of this year. We held this event in the beautiful Dominicanen church here in Maastricht, and we had an audience of over 100 people from both the Netherlands and Belgium in attendance. During this event, we covered the topic of cross-border pollution, and we had a panel of 6 experts, all with different fields of expertise. For example, we had an environmental lawyer, air pollution scientist, a local politician, and they were all able to give us different perspectives on this topic. So we first had a series of broad statements onto which these experts first gave their insights, and afterwards we opened up the floor for the public to chime in and give their opinions to have an open discussion. In a surprising turn of events, the representative of public relations of CBR Leekse, so the cement factory, was actually in attendance at this event, and he extended an invite to our stakeholders to have some open conversation afterwards. So that was a very nice result.
Let's switch gears and look at what the scientific writing group got up to. As for the qualitative research, we conducted interviews with inhabitants of the region, and here our aim was to uncover any prevalent trends in thoughts and opinions surrounding the issues of the factory. Despite sending out multiple invitations, we received a poor number of responses. This, of course, further highlights the sensitivity of the issue. We ended up interviewing 10 high-profile citizens from the area with whom we discussed issues such as transparency, community impact, and health effects associated with the factory. Our initial plan of writing a scientific review was not feasible due to the insufficient amount of literature. Thus, we decided instead to write a scientific letter. Through the course of our project, we uncovered that a lot of the current arguments that our stakeholders used did not have a robust scientific evidence. So the aim of our scientific letter was to give our stakeholders a scientific framework for which they could base their arguments on, that they would further then use to help in the movement to a change in legislation. This letter was finalized in mid-April of this year, so very recently, and in an upcoming meeting that is scheduled in April, our coach Maria is planning on handing this letter over to the Dutch Acting Minister of Public Housing and Spatial Planning to inform him on the topic. In conclusion, we never actually got to see the environmental health impact assessment because it was never actually published. It seems a little bit fishy, right? I think they were just scared of us. But what we did see is ourselves growing as people and professionals. We built unique bonds and had such fun times. We would like to thank our coach Maria for her guidance, patience, and passion. We would like to thank the Honours Programme for the strange but amazing opportunity. To end, I would like to leave you with a fun fact. What do you guys think is the second most used product in the entire world? It's actually cement. Food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you for that nice presentation on this topic, on which once we used to have a full academic program, which was environmental health sciences, before we actually integrated that in biomedical sciences. Questions? Yes.
I found it really impressive how many people you got to go to the open debate. So I was wondering, how did you advertise it? How did you get people talking about it and going to it?
So we First, we started, close to home. We started advertising at the university. We hung up different posters, and a lot of people actually came through that. But we also, our stakeholders are the two citizens coalitions, so Milieufront IJzer and Goed Leven in the Jegervallei, and they are obviously active in the area, and they also got their people to come and talk to, because it's obviously a nice opportunity to be able to speak to people that you otherwise wouldn't be able to speak to, like a lawyer that knows a lot about it, or a politician. We even had Mr. Koen van der Guchten, who was responsible, or who led the closing of NC Maastricht, which is the cement factory that was in Maastricht. So that was a nice way for the people to be able to come, and that's why a lot of people wanted to be in attendance.
Furthermore, the collaboration with Studium Generale also definitely helped, because they're a very well-established and known organization here in Maastricht. So they have little brochures they send out regularly, and I think a lot of people saw the ad in one of those brochures too.
Question up there.
Yes, I have two short questions, if that's okay. The first is there still any way to access the research you've done on this topic? You mentioned that you didn't publish anything, but is it still available somewhere?
For the scientific letter, we aim on publishing it after it has gone through some review process with our coach, and after it's been first shown to the minister. We can definitely send you the letter if you would like to see it. And as for the qualitative research, it will be part of the letter itself. So it will hopefully also be publicly available soon.
Okay, thank you. And the other question that I had is, because there is a border region, did you face any challenges with the language? Because just across the border, they immediately speak in French. So was there any difficulty between communicating with the different language groups in this situation?
Yes, so because it was a border region, we actually faced all of those problems. Of course, take into consideration cultural differences, age demographics, etc. But the most important was, like you said, the language barrier. We actually had Aria in our group who speaks French and was able to translate a lot of the documents for us and was able to correspond with the government on the other side of the border that way.
Did you consider to go to a Belgian school? Because that was missing.
We did actually. We sent out multiple emails to a lot of vocational schools in Belgium, just across the border in Liège, and also some high schools, but we did not receive any responses, unfortunately.
That also says something.
Nice. I was wondering, in terms of the health impact, have you done any, is there any data available whether the cement factory is causing an impact, whether it's within the younger kids or whether it's the older population, like there is more frequency of asthma or COPD or other respiratory distress symptoms? But do you have that data? Because there are a lot of chemical factories around. There are a lot of other kind of, but they are well safeguarded. So I think I'm just wondering, is it a political activism which you are trying to push, or there is substantial environmental impact assessment already done?
So to answer your very lengthy question, I will start by saying about what we see in the data. What we see is that people in this area of the Netherlands live on average a year less than the rest of the Netherlands, and the cause for which is yet to be discovered. So there are multiple hypotheses as to why this happens. We also see that the residents in this area have higher rates of COPD, respiratory diseases, but also cardiovascular diseases. And all these efforts, or our project is an effort to try to explain why this occurs. So next to this high prevalence of comorbidities, we also see that there are a lot of pollutants in the area. And hopefully with time, we will come to an understanding as to whether it is actually a causal relationship between all these different pollutants and the deteriorating health of residents in the area.
And just to quickly add on to that, a main problem of our project was also that we were focusing on ultrafine particles, and those are the particles that are very harmful to us and causing all these cardiovascular disease. However, they are currently not being measured in the cement factory and in this area. So we wanted to urge also in our scientific letter the government and the bodies that are in charge to install these measurement stations so we could further see what effects are being caused.
There was one last question in the back.
Yeah, did you get any follow-up on the talks between stakeholders and the factory that they had opened at the end of your symposium?
Yes, so our coach Maria is actually part of one of the citizens coalitions, Milieu Front Eisde, and they actually already had one meeting and hopefully more to come in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. And then we are ready to move to the last group already, mindfulness and burnout.
We should have just done a mindfulness training instead of a presentation. Honestly. I'd bring some cats and dogs, you know, just to would have been better.
There you go.
Thank you. Does this work? I don't know. Yeah, okay.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. I hope that you all have the energy to listen to just one more presentation this afternoon. We will be presenting to you the final result of our project on behalf of the Dopaminded team. My name is Virginia.
And I'm Talita.
And the rest of our group members are Egid, Mirta, Diaz, and Ana Lucia. So, some background information about our research. This is the results from a study done by the Public Health and Environmental Institution in the Netherlands. And they published this study in 2021, and they found that lots of students in the Netherlands are struggling with their mental health. More than half of students struggle with general mental health issues, loneliness, pressure to achieve, and high levels of stress. So I hope that you can all see why we think this is such an issue and why we think it's important to do more research and find a solution. So our project started out a bit different than how it looks now. Our coach, Brigitte Wijnen, she is a mindfulness expert and she has a donkey farm, and she uses the donkeys to help people with a variety of conditions, including people with stress. And she is currently researching the effects of animal-assisted mindfulness, particularly with the donkeys, on working-class adults with burnout. And we had the opportunity to join her lovely project. However, we decided to find a solution to reduce stress in students that could become part of their daily life.
So our goal was to actually improve the mental health of the students. And we wanted to make their lives less stressful and more enjoyable. And first we thought maybe using the donkeys or other animals, but we quickly thought of the idea to use students' own pets because they can do it then at home, which would make it easier and more accessible for the students. So eventually, after a few meetings, we came up with the research question, what is the difference in effect on animal-assisted mindfulness on the well-being of students aged 18, 30 years old in comparison to classical mindfulness? But first, maybe, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is actually a technique, which is in the word, to make you more mindful, so that you're aware of your own thoughts. So it's actually a technique that you can practice to be in the here and now by paying attention to your own thoughts. And if you are practicing this technique by, for example, mindfulness sessions of a coach or by audiobooks, then you can then make it in your day-to-day life and every day practice mindfulness and be more mindful. And there has been a lot of research into mindfulness. And it's scientifically proven to reduce stress and improve focus of people. So that's why we thought it would be a great way to improve the lives of students. So we set up our study. And for inclusion and exclusion criteria, we decided to include students, but also from eventually only from Maastricht University and Hogeschool in the Netherlands. And they had obviously to experience stress and anxiety and had daily access to a cat or a dog. Exclusion criteria were things that we thought of that could interfere with the mindfulness and the effect of mindfulness. For instance, psychotropic substances, but also people who are already practicing mindfulness in their day-to-day life. And we started off when we were recruiting participants with 26 people who were interested in the study, but at the end, 12 people didn't want to take part in the study, and 2 people of those 26 met the exclusion criteria. So in the end, 12 people enrolled in our study. And we divided those 12 people into the classical mindfulness group, so the control group, and the animal-assisted mindfulness, so the intervention group. But at the end of the study, 1 person was lost to follow-up, and 1 person met the exclusion criteria by switching medication for ADHD. So for the statistical analysis, we only used 10 people.
And so that meant we used a per protocol analysis. This brings us to the baseline characteristics of the participants in our study population. Interestingly enough, all of our participants were females. We had no men who were interested in joining our study, which is actually has been similar in other research about mindfulness. And also, all but 1 of our participants has a cat rather than a dog. And this makes a lot of sense considering that it is much more practical to live in student housing with a cat rather than a dog. So how did we conduct our research? It was a double-blind, randomized control trial. And we started with an intake interview. And all participants filled in the 5-facet mindfulness questionnaire, which is indicative of how mindful a person is, and also the mental health continuum short form, which is an indicator of mental health. And of course, we also noted some qualitative measures. And all of this was repeated at the last interview, which took place after all the mindfulness sessions. And for the actual mindfulness sessions, it took place over a course of 8 weeks, 3 times a week, and this took place at home. The classical mindfulness group listened to a series of meditations recorded by the well-established meditation teacher, Tara Brach, whereas the animal-assisted mindfulness group listened to a series of meditations scripted by our coach, Brigitte, and recorded by myself. And these meditations aim to include pets into the mindfulness session, either by sitting with them or touching them, being close to them, and yeah. So firstly, we did a quantitative analysis. As many of you probably know, quantitative analysis is better suited for a larger population, and since our population only had 10 participants, it is not the most ideal to gather research that's going to be statistically significant, but nevertheless, we found it very fruitful to gather this information and analyze this data, if not to make our own conclusions, but to guide research in the future. And we found that the participants in the animal-assisted mindfulness group became more mindful after partaking in the study, but this did not happen in the classical mindfulness group. And there was no statistically significant effect in the mental health of participants.
For our qualitative analysis, we used the interviews that we did at the beginning and the end of our research. And it was a thematic discourse analysis. It's already explained by another group, so you're looking at the themes that you can find in the interviews and try to see if there's a connection between all the groups. Notably, all participants said that it had a positive effect, the mindfulness sessions, on their cognitive function in terms of learning and on focus. So everyone talked about that they felt that their learning improved. But if we are looking at the differences between the animal-assisted mindfulness and the classical mindfulness, the animal-assisted mindfulness participants said that they had stronger adherence and were more motivated to do the actual sessions, while the classical mindfulness described it more like a chore for them. But the animal-assisted mindfulness participants saw it as an opportunity to connect with their pets and to have more of a fun time and to learn something. So that's kind of the difference that we found in the interviews between the animal-assisted mindfulness and the classical mindfulness. So in conclusion, we think that animal-assisted mindfulness is a good alternative or even a better alternative for classical mindfulness because they have a better perception of mindfulness. And by this, I mean that the people of the animal-assisted mindfulness were more motivated to do it and thought it would have a better outcome in comparison with the classical mindfulness. So that could possibly also influence the result of participating mindfulness. It also enriches the overall experience, and the people feel like they are connecting more with their pet, which is great. And it's also fun, interactive, and approachable if you have a pet at home, because you have to have a pet to do animal-assisted mindfulness, obviously. And all of our findings we have written down in a paper. We're in the final stages of reviewing our paper. So probably next week or over 2 weeks, we will admit the paper to hopefully get it published. And apart from learning a lot about doing our own research and what you all have to do to make a research, we also became great friends and we did a lot of fun stuff. We even got to camp at the donkey farm of our coach. Thank you so much, Brigitte. It was really fun. And hopefully in a month, we will do it again. So thank you so much, Brigitte, for guiding us through all the process and helping us with everything. And thank you, Honours. Yeah. Yes. That was my dad.
Thank you. Questions? Look at that. What happened?
No.
We're popular.
Dying. Not the statistical analysis, please. Like asking about donkeys. Yeah, right?
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I had a question regarding the percentage of students who actually have pets. Do you have numbers regarding to that? Because at least in my surroundings, I do not know a lot of people with pets in their student housing. So therefore, I was interested in how many of the student population actually has access to this exercise.
Thank you. That's a great question, but actually we did not consider to survey how many students have pets, but that would be very interesting in the future to see how we could implement this in the daily life of students. So thank you for your question.
I want to add something. There is already on different schools and universities throughout the world where there are like dogs or cats in school. So on the university campus or something, there are then dogs that students can pet and cuddle if they feel the need to. So maybe that would also be a great idea to implement to universities itself and not only to people's home.
I wanted to know what exactly did the people with the pet at home had to do? Did they had to pet their cat 10 minutes a day, or what exactly was their exercise at home with their animal?
Yes, so there were a variety of different mindfulness sessions that were recorded, from a body scan, which is frequently used in mindfulness sessions, or taking a walk, or just sitting with your pets and petting them while doing some breathing exercise. There was a large variety of different exercises, and it varied depending on the day, which one that they would do.
I had a question about the study type that you mentioned. I believe you said it was a double-blind RCT. However, participants had to either have access to an animal or not. And where did the blinding come into play? Because the participants couldn't be blinded as to which type of mindfulness they were doing?
Yes, so everyone did have a pet at home, whether you were in the classical mindfulness group or the animal-assisted mindfulness group. And so while they could have indeed perhaps found out that other people in the other group were doing them actively with their pets, but since they all had to have pets in their home and they weren't, yes, but that is a very...
It was just not possible to blind.
Yeah, it wasn't... We tried to blind as much as possible and, what is it? Make up for the confounding factors, but indeed you're right, I would mention it, I would call it a single blind study.
I am interested in what kinds of variables did you use in the quantitative analysis, because you said for the mental health that there is a significant difference, but how did you measure it quantitatively?
With we had like certified surveys. So for the mindfulness, we had the 5 as a mindfulness questionnaire, and for the mental health, it was the mental health continuum short form. So it's just surveys that the participants filled in, and that can give you a score on how mindful you are or how your mental health is.
How was the adherence to the protocol within the groups? Did you account for that with, like, I don't know, intention to treat analysis or something like that?
Yes, at the end of the study, all participants had to indicate around how often in the weeks that they were able to complete the sessions, but it was a per protocol analysis because we did not include the participants who were not able to complete the sessions, enough sessions, and also participants who fit the exclusion criteria along the way. They were excluded and not included in the analysis. So rather than an intention to treat analysis, it was a per protocol analysis.
Okay, we're done. I have a million other questions, but we're not going to do that. We give you a round of applause. And that means that we are now at the end of the scientific part, I would say. We have seen a lot of different topics, a lot of different teamworks. We asked a lot of questions. That was very good. Everybody was involved. That brings us now to the real thing why we came here, which is the distribution of certificates. We have a short break, but we stay here unless we need a sanitary break to set up some things, and then Juanita will take over.
Don't put it on the edge.
Put them a bit more in, we're gonna have space.
Eentje is gezegd dat...
Waar is het vat waar we zo aan gaan tappen?
Environmental group 1 is one chart.
Ja, dat zou wel leuk geworden zeg. Ja.
En wat kost het? Veel meer. Minder dan vorig jaar. Ja. Maar vorig jaar hadden ze ook heel veel uitgegeven, volgens mij.
Ik denk die houden we erin, denk ik. Ja. Zullen jullie de linker krijgen?
Maar heb je nou eentje gekocht?
Ja.
Ik hoorde er eentje rinkelen.
Van welke?
Environmental
health.
Dan heeft hij jullie in.
Nee.
Helaas
niet. Maar zullen we even kijken, volgens mij zijn ze niet compleet.
Dit klopt niet, want we hebben maar 2 van de kopen gedaan.
Ja, eentje is kapot gegaan.
Maar er zijn toch niet maar 2 mensen in die groep?
Ik heb alles gecheckt voor altijd.
Dus dit niet gewoon deze?
Ja, volgens mij waren 2 van de coaches. En de eentje sowieso. Dat geeft wel info. Dat was het al. Dat vroeg ik nog. Dat vroeg ik ook aan Laura. Ze hoorde bij de AI of niet.
Ja? Jullie fixen het, hè?
Ja.
Hoe lang hebben jullie nog nodig?
We zijn er klaar.
Ja?
Nou, dan zijn we weer precies op tijd.
We would like to continue in 1 or 2 minutes, so please take your seats. If you could please take your seats. Thank you. We like to continue with the distribution of the certificates. Maybe the most looking forward event of today. I would like to start with inviting the board of MAS to come forward and have your speech.
Hello everyone, welcome. It's very nice to see everyone and have all the groups together to finalize this 1.5 years long journey. Today we really come together to celebrate a very important and impressive milestone, not just academically speaking about an extracurricular, very, very challenging 1.5 years, but also the friendships we've made, the challenges we've had, how we've developed as researchers, as students. And we as representatives of MAS are very, very proud of everyone here, all the coaches, the coordinators, and of course the graduates. And as seen from the presentations, I think we can all agree that the studies have been so incredibly diverse, covering so many different fields of health, biomedical sciences, medicine, and it really represents the multifaceted and diverse student body that we have at FHML as medical students, EPH students, biomedical students, health science students to come together and really go outside of our bachelor programs, challenge ourselves, and go out of our comfort zone, I should say. Yes.
So over the past 1.5 years, we all began this journey and we were all there with different kinds of motivations, maybe to go into research, to learn how to work in a group with people from different backgrounds. And we stepped into this new group together, everybody with a different discipline, a different view of perspective, different kinds of motivations. And we were all looking for a place within our project, a place within our group. We may have been a bit lost, but afterwards, after a period of adjustments, of finding a way among all these new faces, the coaches, the students, and all these challenging tasks, we all kind of got together, bonded, and found our way. During this time, it was remarkable to see how we were thrown into this deep end together. We spent time together, we formed bonds, and whether it was during our group meetings, at a conference in Barcelona or in Glasgow, or camping somewhere on a farm, a weekend together, we all got to know each other better beyond the academic setting. It was a real pleasure to be able to learn from students from other groups with such diverse backgrounds during the joint activities of the Honours Programme, like the Prison Island, and the activities that we were able to host as MAS, like the bowling, the movies, the evenings out, and even like tours of the laboratory. This way we were able to learn with each other, from each other, and about each other in many different ways.
And through this unique experience, I hope we've all been able to challenge ourselves and forge unique friendships and relationships with our co-students. And I would also really like to take this opportunity to thank Theo and Juanita for all their hard work and guidance through these 1.5 years. I'd also really like to thank my board members, Hande, Laura, and Nastia, and of course Mirte, for all the tireless work they've put into this. And we actually have a little present for all the coaches and all the graduates for each project group, which we'll be giving out during the diploma outreach.
Yeah, the certificates.
Certificates.
Yeah. So, to conclude, after all this hard work, it was challenging, but it was fun, as we could see in the Mentimeter, and we can finally say, let me phrase it, that we are well-established, project-based and result-oriented collaborators. We are analytical researchers, we are communicators, and last but not least, we are now alumni of the FHML Honours Programme. Congratulations, everyone! Oh my god, this is going to be nice. Okay, yeah. So we have a little present for you.
From the markets of Maastricht. Oh, wait.
Thank you very much.
So please a big round of applause for our coordinators, Theo and Juanita. Thank you so much.
Very nice. I was hoping for one.
Thank you so much, MAS board. We can't do this without you. So a really great applause for MAS. For us as coordinators, this is always a real nice Saturday. Always the first Saturday of April. We are here.
And always good weather, except for last year.
Yeah, we are really proud of you achieving this, doing the hard work, and we only here to facilitate. Yeah, it's part of our job, but we really like this, and we will continue with this next year. But for now, we are going to continue with the presentation of the honors certificates. So we have a few guidelines. So I call the coach to come forward, and then I ask the students to come forward as well. We have a 1-minute pitch by the coach to the group. Then we hand over the certificate to the coach, who hands over the certificates to the students. You get a nice surprise by MAS, and then we have a group picture, and then we continue to the next group. So, Masoud, can you come forward with your group?
Okay, so I'm gonna call students alphabetized. Diora, Eva, Hannah, Mariam, Naisha, Patricia, Shukia, Wilhelmine. I would like to thank you for your trust, for selecting me as your coach in the first place. I'm especially thankful for your positive attitude, dedication, and creativity. We have grown as a team together. I'm very proud of what you have done in creating a platform to enhance reproductive literacy. I have been re-inspired during our brainstorming sessions on multiple occasions, and your growth gave me an extraordinary fulfillment, reminding me how privileged I am to be your coach as an academic staff of Maastricht University. The way that you heard each other and effectively worked together made me nothing but hopeful for a bright future with empathic and creative healthcare providers who are ready as women STEM to timely tackle any challenge in health and disease. Importantly, I would like to congratulate your parents and family who are here or saw you shining online to raise such wonderful women in science. Theo and Juanita, thank you very much for this opportunity and for creating and leading the honors program and for all your support. Thank you.
Okay. Please come forward. And please come forward. Marjan Drucker, with your team, please.
So the 5 of you wrote a research paper to be published in a scientific journal. You did a statistical analysis, and wrote the introduction and the discussion and everything that is supposed to be in a scientific paper. The 5 of you together were actually one starting PhD student. You did a great job, my compliments. When you're joining the honors program, you're supposed to work on competencies that you're not that good at in the beginning. Carmen and Manas shows a competency like that, and Carmen, now you are a great leader. And Manas, in the end, you had really difficulties with planning because everybody was away in difficult schedules, and it was really a challenge, and you also did a great job. Lucy, you were a constant contributor, and you inspired the rest a lot when you started writing the methods and spent a lot of time on it, and that gave really a boost to the paper. Ola isn't here, but I guess she's on the live stream. Ola was the contact person with Turkey, and she even visited one of the clients in Turkey in Istanbul when she was there. Mimi is a big cooperator. She always did her task, and she was a big help to everybody. So thank you very much for joining me. I will miss you.
The next group is Team Implementation of AR Innovations by Ansha and Anke.
Good afternoon, everybody, members of the Honours Organizing Committee, students, coaches, friends and family. On behalf of my co-coach Anke Wind and our department, the Department of Precision Medicine, I'd like to congratulate our students for their very hard work over the last 18 months. As Theo mentioned in the beginning of this afternoon, this program is really about students stepping out of their comfort zone, taking on new challenges, and, well, which all of you did. You experienced many challenges throughout the project. Implementation is not easy of anything. We all know that, I think. You learned how to apply for ethical approval and the long process that can be sometimes, contacting busy clinicians, doing a systematic review, which even for experienced researchers is very, very challenging. So I think you all have done a fantastic job. So again, on behalf of Anke Wind and our department, I would really like to thank you for all the hard work that you've done and wish you all the best for the future. Thank you.
Stephanie Linden, can you come forward with your team?
Oh. Lisanne is still missing, so all on one side. Excellent. So yeah, today we're coming to the end of a journey, as you said in your presentation, that started with your first encounter with our topic, Huntington's disease, 1.5 years ago, and your trip to Glasgow to the Youth Organization Conference. And you were motivated by these experiences to choose Hunting Hope as the name for your group. And yeah, I would say how very appropriate. Hope is what we try to give to patients with this hitherto incurable genetic disease. And I think that you have given the patients and family members some hope by showing that students from the biomedical field have a strong interest in their disease. The engagement with patients' care as health professionals has been the red thread throughout your work. and you liaised with young people from Huntington disease families at the conference organized in Symposium to support the great charity Sheenam's Wish, and embarked on a research project on genetic testing. The good thing is, as you already mentioned, is that the journey does not end here. I'm very pleased, very happy that you are committed to continue your research on the needs of young people with Huntington's disease or from Huntington disease families, which will fill an important knowledge gap for carers and professionals. So I congratulate you today on your achievements. I'm very proud of you, and it was fantastic working with you. And the good thing is we are not going to finish now. We'll be going on, hopefully, with the project. So congratulations. Thank you.
Scheltes and Eline, can you come forward with your team ICU? Zullen we een slide laten zien?
Ja, als het kan.
Ja.
Dat zou wel chic wezen.
Weet u? Waar had je hem staan? Je had hem... Oh, de mapcoaches. Waar staat? Oh ja. Die.
Well, ladies of our VCU team, we are very proud coaches, I have to say, for your achievements, this honours program. I hope Inos is also there digitally. Thanks for everything. I think we can proudly say that we learned a lot from you, with you, and about you, and you did the same within your team, I think. So please don't forget that in the future, because it's really important. And I think you did also learn a lot about connecting before content. Please remember that and listen and partner up. So I think that's really important. Can we have the next slide? Plus? Okay, there, okay. So we had thought about an activity to illustrate what you have done this honours program. And it's something that we would have done gladly in this hall, but it's not appropriate due to time. But maybe you can do it after the certification at the drinks. So what you really did is experience, reflect on it, make meaning, and act on it. So, and make circles again and again and again. And that's the way you learned. I thought that was the thing that we saw as coaches. So maybe the public, the audience, can think about, after you go to the drinks, think about what you experienced today and talk with somebody you don't know or somebody you know. Reflect on it, make meaning out of it, and act on it. So please do that. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it has a lot of things that you can learn from it. So that's what we want to give to you all. We are really proud. And yeah, thanks to everybody. Congratulations. And also to the organizing committee. Thank you.
Please step forward, the team by Bert Smeets.
Deze.
Ja, is beter met mij.
Ja. En dan even dit is even kijken, moet kijken of ik kort heb. Ja.
Good afternoon. My name is Bert Smith, and I'm approaching muscular dystrophy, paving the road to therapy. My apologies that my speech is pre-recorded, but being in Rome, unfortunately, it was not possible to do this on site. My group consists of 10 girls: Alexia, Doris, Anna, Isabel, Josephine, Julia, Laura, Linda, Nastia, and Olga. And although they were all from the same sex, they were still a highly diverse group of students, a lot of fun to work with. The topic of the project was about muscular dystrophy, which is an extremely rare genetic disease with no cure available, limited knowledge on natural history, and international patient organizations at an early stage. Having such a large group of students, the project was split in several sub-projects, which were handled by subgroups, but, if necessary, also by the entire group. During the project, the group members covered all competencies of the Honours Programme, and they really delivered. Anyhow, congratulations, ladies, for the successful completion of the Honours Programme, and many thanks also from ground for the work of the patient organization for Sarah for everything we did for Lama 2 patients all across Europe. It was a real pleasure being your coach.
So this whole video lasted for 5 minutes. So we will send it to you after this meeting. Then we continue with a group by Maria. Maria, can you step forward with your team?
Well, you were a fantastic group, 4 of 6 people here present now. I really enjoyed working with you. 6 persons with a very keen interest on environmental health and public health. So I really appreciate that. I think for the audience here, you were a group, as an example, with working very, very collaboratively together during the whole period. So I really, I saw the dynamics in the group. You started very enthusiastic also. We visited the cement industry and the quarry. And I think that was an eye-opener for you, because you really became aware of the power levels of the different parties, the different perspectives of the cement industry, the Walloon government, the border municipalities, the inhabitants in the region of South Limburg and Belgium. So you really got a feeling of what was happening there. You also worked together on your own competencies, but you also gave the other group persons the opportunities to work on their competencies in practice. I think also you had together a very positive and also sometimes negative feedback on each other, but always in very respectful. So I think that was a very good learning process. You were also confronted with some frustrations, like not able to find interviewees from the cement industry, but that's a very good learning aspect, I think. Having said this, I'm very, very proud of you. I think the visits to the secondary and the secondary vocational school was also a very important and relevant thing you did. And well, it showed also that you have that you have much ambition. I want to thank you. I also want to thank you because of the very good presentation at Studium Generale, the debate we had there with more than 100 people present, also from the Belgian and the region in the South Limburg. I also want to thank you on behalf of Milieufront IJsde en de Goed Leven in de Jekervallei, because now we have a very good scientific understatement for which can give us a very good follow-up. So thanks for all of you, and I think you receive a big applause now.
And last but not least, the Donkey Group. Brigitte, can you come forward with your team?
Ja, nee, ik wacht even op Brigitte. Jij wil eerst nog wat zeggen, denk ik, hè?
Ja.
Je kan hem daaraan zeggen.
Ja. I want to thank you so much for bringing all the attention to animals in healthcare, the added value that animals can have in the treatment of mental health issues. I enjoyed very much working with you young, bright people, all of you. And it's animals in general, donkeys in special, and it even resulted in a commercial proposition to my best therapy animal, my best therapy donkey, Yip. Watch the video.
Since I was born, I dreamed of being a Budweiser Clydesdale. Only problem is, I was born a donkey. So all my life, I practiced the Clydesdale walk and the Clydesdale pull. I even tried hair extensions on my lower legs. And then came my big interview. They looked me in the eye and said, "What makes you think you can be a Clydesdale, son?" And what was my answer? I must have said something right. Dit is wat de mensen wel kunnen doen. Dus die maken een totale iets wat zij bezig zijn. Zo ik wil dat vervolgens naar mijn eigen webshop en dan komt het zo uit te zien.
Okay, we did it. Everybody, congratulations. It's a pleasure to have seen you all here on stage, also people in the live stream. And now it's time for a drink, but there's one final group photo, or is that?
Yes.
Yes. And we will do that outside in front of the building, so that we have all honor students in one picture with all the coaches involved as well. And then after that, we are finally going for a real drink. Some people got a glass. You can use that glass or whatever you get. Okay, it was nice to have you all. See you in a few minutes. Yeah.